Well, whatever the job summit achieved, it didn't damage, or failed to achieve, I should say, it didn't damage the government in the polls. According to News Poll today, the federal coalition is at its equal lowest rating on record. Rocco, is this because it hasn't gone in hard enough against a Labor government that is committing the nation to fairly suicidal policies in some aspects?
You can look at it, I think, in one of two ways. One, we're 3 months into a new government, so we're probably well and truly still in the honeymoon period, and we've got a very fawny media that is doing anything to promote this new government and overlook its huge shortcomings. But also, there's a lesson in there, I think, or a takeaway possibly for the coalition and for Peter Dutton, is that, as we're saying, look, up until now, they probably haven't gone hard enough, but as the months go on, as we get closer to the next election, that's something that they're going to have to do. I mean, at this point in time, what has Peter Dutton got to lose? It's better to be right than popular, and he's got to go out there, particularly after the budget and in the months after that, when these cost of living pressures are going to bite, and into the years ahead when these mad green policies are obviously going to start biting. People will feel it in their hip pocket. And it's up to Peter Dutton and the coalition to prosecute the case as to why these policies are crazy and why the Conservatives should be entrusted holding on to true Conservative values as providing solutions to these problems, rather than just Labor light more of the same.
Well, it's pretty easy to prosecute now. I mean, I was specifically referring to our renewables targets and energy policy. I mean, you only have to look at Europe to see that this is going to end in disaster. I mean, these are easy runs to get on the board for the opposition, aren't they?
And that's where the opposition has to not be so timid and has to actually go out there and argue the case. And as you say, they've got a clear example to point to. And I think it was about a year to 18 months ago that the European Union said to Australia, look, we won't entertain any trade deals, any free trade agreements unless you fix up your climate policy. Well, look at Europe now. It's on its knees. So, again, what we saw over the last 8.5 years of coalition government was too much timidity, and there's no room for that anymore. As I said, Peter Dutton has nothing to lose with these news poll numbers. He has to go for it and go for it hard.
And finally, before you go, Rocco, Four Corners is promising a sensational expose of Qantas, alleging increased pressure and potential compromises on safety in the airline. Nearly all of us have flown Qantas recently, Rocco. Do you think that airline deserves a bit of bad publicity at the moment?
Look, Qantas, I don't think whether it deserves it or not, it's going to get it anyway. But in terms of whether it deserves it, look, Qantas over the last few years has been one of the leaders in a lot of this virtue signalling in a lot of ways. And the consequences of cost cutting and shedding of staff are now being felt. What was it in November? Whether they discussed the elephant in the room that will be Alan Joyce's employment policies being Four Corners, I'm not entirely sure. But you only have to look at November 2020 when Alan Joyce was the first one to come out and say, look, we're going to impose a vaccine mandate. You won't be able to travel with us. You won't be able to work with us unless you've had the vaccine. Well, that's being felt incredibly now because of the shortages on the ground and in the air with the pilots and the flight crew. I mean, that's just one aspect of it. But again, go woke, go broke.